I've wanted a top-of-the-line BMW GS Adventure motorcycle for about 20 years. My previous bike was a 2019 F850 GS, not Adventure. This bike right here, 2022 GS Adventure Rallye trim. Top of the line, it does not have the heated seat. It does not have the electronic suspension adjust, which if you're a single rider and you're not going two up, it's not that big of a deal. You don't get the dynamic or the road changes in the suspension pressures, but the dial is very easy to use. You can actually use it while you're riding. For me, it's pretty simple. 4 clicks up to go off-road with enduro boots, another 4 clicks if I'm fully loaded with luggage. I did install an Akrapovic full exhaust. You have the Akrapovic slip-on exhaust in the back. Akrapovic racing headers. Overall, this has been one of my lifelong dreams to ride this quality of a machine. The technology is all about riding the vehicle. There's no speakers, there's none of that stuff. The bike, all the engineering in the bike is based around form and function. The front suspension is one of the best in the world. One of the short videos I have, I just bash right into a cattle guard, raised cattle guard, and you just jump right over it. Even with knobby dirt bike style tires like that, you can still ride at high speeds and high winds, fully loaded on the highway. This is one of the most fun touring bikes you can get on the planet. You can also ride it off-road. It has been really fun riding this bike for 15,000 miles. But I want to go back to my old bike. So I'm selling this, and I picked up a regular GS, not Adventure. Regular GS 850. So it's the smallest BMW GS you can get with the most amount of power. It is a trophy model. The trophy model come with the Adventure metal foot pegs, the rally style seat here. The reason I like this 850 more than the 1250 is about riding preference. That's about it. I am looking to go off-road on more aggressive trails off-road. When I ride this off-road, I feel like I'm putting every ounce of energy to not crash, and when I do, I can barely pick the bike up. When I ride this bike off-road, I don't feel like I have to put every ounce of energy into not crashing. This is the most capable off-road GS BMW. With the 850 GS, the big difference you're going to notice right away, it comes with 21-inch front tire versus the 19-inch front tire on the BMW GS 1250. Like I was saying, when you hit big obstacles in the 21-inch front tire, you have that much higher of an obstacle and it will still just roll right over it. You notice the front suspension. The front suspension on this bike is much softer. It dives versus this, which is the best in the world, and does not dive under hard braking. With the 2023 GS Trophy 850 here, I do have the dynamic suspension adjust. I also have the M Enduro chain, which is an upgraded item. I also have street tires. I've never ridden a GS with street tires before. These are the Aniki Adventure. They're technically Adventure tires. Looking forward to riding these on the highway. When you hit the brakes, the front end does not dive on this bike. With this bike, you can climb over much bigger obstacles off-road with ease. When you hit the front brakes under high braking on the highway, you are going to dive down quite a bit. The gas tanks on these bikes, this is a 4-gallon gas tank, this is an 8-gallon gas tank. I've never ran out of gas in this. There's no reason for you to run out. You're going to get 250, 300 miles. On this little 850, it's a 4-gallon tank. You're going to really struggle to make sure that you have gas. Whenever you see a gas station on this bike, you should fill up. Whenever you see a gas station on this bike, you should just watch your buddies fill up. I don't want to sit on this bike because of the soft gravel. But you can clearly see when I'm riding this, I am not protected by the wind on my legs like I am on that. When you ride this bike, bugs, rocks, wind, weather, it's all gonna bounce off your leg. Even though this is a dual sport adventure bike, this is one of the best sport touring bikes you can get. It protects you from the wind and weather. When you're riding in bad weather and the cold or rain, about all that really gets hit with cold air or water is your arm up here, from about here to here. Your feet are totally protected from wind, weather, water, bugs, rocks. The windscreen fairing buffets all the air around you, so just about the top of your helmet. You have heated grips. The hand grip protection keeps your hands out of the wind. 2 settings on the heated grips. Number 1 is all you ever should use, but really comfortable bike to ride for 6-7 hours, 2, 3, 4 days in a row. The seat is, the way I would compare the seat here, this is not a $1,000 memory foam mattress, this is a $3,000 memory foam mattress. Very, very comfortable seat, rally seat, single person seat, so you can slide around and give your hips and knees a little breather. BMW GS Adventure models, they come standard with fog lights and crash bars.
Okay.
GS models do not come with crash bars or fog lights. That's why they're a lot lighter. The GS Adventure 850 weighs 540 pounds. It is not much lighter than a 1250. This bike is a lot lighter. It only weighs 504 pounds. One thing that I am going to do is change the exhaust on this bike, delete the catalytic converter, delete the resonator box, and put a Akrapovic exhaust on this bike. Hopefully dropping about 20 or 30 pounds. Putting it under 500 pounds is about 480 or 490. The GS models do not come with crash bars or fog lights. You cannot ride this bike off-road without crash bars. You crash this beautiful blue paint one time, you're not going to be happy. Adding crash bars to this bike is going to add some weight. Fog lights, for safety, you got to have auxiliary lights on motorcycles. My buddy says I look like a welder going down the highway. You want to. People see you. You're allowed to ride with bright lights on motorcycles, and you should do that. I'm going to have to add crash bars and fog lights to this bike, but the stock exhaust on this bike has a lot of weight to it. Catalytic converter, resonator box, and stock exhaust. I make fun of the stock 1250 sound with the catalytic converter and the stock muffler on the 1250. It kind of does sound like a scooter. This 850, in my opinion, is the best sounding stock BMW GS motorcycle, or pretty much BMW, unless you like leader bikes. The 850 has a parallel twin, and that's where you get the whoop whoop sound of this bike. Probably, in my opinion, the coolest sounding stock BMW motorcycle. 1250 has a racing exhaust, so no catalytic converter. This is about the best sounding 1250 you can get. Center of gravity, even though this is a lighter bike, the center of gravity of the motor is higher. The seat on this bike is actually higher. It does not have a lower position like that does. This is probably around 34. This is probably closer to 35 and a half. I have BMW motorcycle boots on. When I ride this bike, I can barely touch the ground. I am about like that. I only should wear proper enduro boots when I ride this bike. With this bike, with the suspension lowered, I can put my foot flat on the ground. The other major difference for the comfortability of riding this long term This seat is just not as comfortable. This is your $1,000 memory foam seat. This is your $3,000 bed seat. So this seat definitely is not as comfortable on long rides. If you're more of a touring person with light off-road, this is the bike you want, 1250 GS or GS Adventure. If you get the GS, that's probably the right size tank and bike for the modern society. You're gonna have to add crash bars and fog lights. If you're getting a 1250, you might as well just get the Adventure. With the 850, the 850 GS Adventure just weighs way too much, 540 pound stock. I'm gonna add crash bars, fog lights, delete the catalytic converter, delete the resonator box, Akrapovic exhaust. We're gonna get this bike set up, adventure ready, with crash bars, with fog lights, hopefully for around 500 pounds. Not only it is a great sport touring bike, it is tall in the corners, so there's a little pendulum effect. Excellent sport touring bike, but also it's one of the fastest bikes around. This 1250 GS with the ShiftCam is an insanely fast motor. One thing about the motor though, you don't get any engine noise if you do add an exhaust like this. The way this bike runs, all you hear is exhaust. Versus the 850, you hear the motor coming out of the fairing and out of the sides here. Versus on the 1250, you don't get any of that engine noise. And like I said, I think this is the coolest sounding BMW stock. If you're looking for an overall sport touring bike that is an off-road capable bike that you want to do for hundreds and hundreds of miles all over the country, 1250 is the bike. If you're looking to do some really rough off-road, get on Adventure Fest, Death Valley, take it to the intermediate trails with ease versus struggling, this is the bike you want. 2024 GS 900. BMW has listened to its consumers and they're doing everything right. They're adding the long travel adjustable suspension, the lower gear ratio, weight saving technology, Akrapovic exhaust. All of that is going to be stock on the 900 GS 2024. This is going to be BMW's most capable off-road bike. That bike is going to have 15 more horsepower and weigh 30 less pounds than this current bike. Got my name on the list trying to get a GS 900 2024 Extreme. That's a Shinko big block. It's a 60-40 tire, 60 off-road, 40 road tire. Even with these types of tires, on the back here, same style, different brand, Continental TKC rocks. Really cool tire. This tire, when it's new, it's a little squirrely on the pavement. The more these lugs wear down in the middle, the better it gets on road. When these lugs are really thick, when it's new, it gets a little squirrely on the pavement, but it's way better off-road. With those enduro style tires, you can still run this vehicle at legal plus speeds without wobbles in high winds. The way this bike's set up, 2019 Plus has the ShiftCam technology. The motor has an insane amount of torque, low RPM. In some of my short videos or the videos from Sturgis, you can see me riding up the hills, just kind of lugging it, voop, 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 going up the hills. Going down the hills, you just put it in first gear, don't use the rear brake, pepper the front brake, and it just voop, 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 goes down the hill. On the highway, at 95 miles an hour, you're at 5,500 RPM, 30 mile an hour headwind, fully loaded, hit the gas, you will jump up to 105 like that. There's an insane amount of high-end power, tons amount of low-end torque. There's a great RevZilla video where the Pan America and the BMW are side by side at 65 and 6 gear, and they both floor it, and the 1250 just takes off. The engine, insanely powerful, insanely fun to ride. With this setup that we put on here, you don't hear the motor at all. It's down so low. The cool boxer motor sounds are totally gone if you modify the exhaust on this bike. The stock exhaust is extremely quiet. It's noise and emission compliant for Europe versus what this has with the racing headers and the Akrapovic exhaust. Akrapovic is a brand I feel really comfortable with because it's the only brand that BMW puts on their bikes in the showroom. The 1250 versus the 850, it has a wider tire with a 19-inch rim. When you're off-road with the 19-inch rim and you hit a big rock, it's kind of like hitting a brick wall. With the 21-inch tire and narrower platform, when you hit those big rocks, you just lightly float right over them. The weight of this bike. This is a very heavy bike compared to the 600 or 800 series adventure bikes. It does do much better in high winds on the highway with a heavy load than those smaller bikes. But the big difference between this bike and the smaller bikes is when you drop this off-road, it takes every ounce of energy to pick it up by yourself. Especially if you're fully loaded, you're gonna have to take stuff off. Smaller bikes, they're about 100, 125 pounds lighter. That difference is the difference between a normal average person being able to pick this up by yourself in the middle of nowhere or not. The size of this gas tank. This is an 8-gallon gas tank. The worst mileage you're going to get with this if you have a heavy hand, fully loaded, is 26, 28 miles per gallon. Most likely you're going to get 38 to 42. 4 times 8 is 320 miles. That's way too many miles. In modern society, you don't need that much gas. If you are going to ride this bike off-road, try and always have 4 gallons or less, because that's going to save you around 30 pounds up top. When you're riding this off-road, the size of that tank, which protects you at high speeds on the highway and in the wind, it's very bulky, and even though if you're running at a half tank of gas, it feels very cumbersome. What I'm looking for in an adventure bike is a bike that is a little better off-road than this. I am willing to sacrifice some of the creature comforts and amazing highway capabilities of this type of vehicle to have a lighter vehicle that can handle more aggressive off-road terrain. If you're just looking to do forest service roads, maintained roads, backcountry roads, BDR trails, this bike is totally capable of doing that. If you're going to try and do a little bit more aggressive terrain that's not maintained, you're going to really struggle on a bike like this. The best part about this bike though, if you're looking to do that light off-roading with more of a highway touring style of riding, single swing arm shaft drive, 12,000 miles changed to gear oil, never gets dirty, very easy to maintain. Wind and weather protection. You can ride this bike in 18, 20 degree weather with proper clothing. You have a DIN port here so you can plug in heated clothes. You have another port here on the dash. Plenty of power. Very comfortable vehicle to take on long rides in bad weather.